Good evening, everybody. My name's Kerry Duval. I am the Warrior Queen. Tonight, we're going to kickstart April because it's Autism Awareness Month. Even though every month should be Autism Awareness Month, we're going to kickstart it with tonight's show talking about neurodiversities and raising a family with neurodiversities. I've got an amazing guest waiting. See you in a minute. Hello, welcome to the show, Sarah.
Hi, thanks so much for having me, Carrie.
So we'll kickstart with, how are you?
Oh, just wonderful this evening.
Good, I'm glad. And have you had a busy day?
Actually, it's been kind of a nice day. We just started our spring break and it snowed, so lovely. So good reason to stay inside and do some housework.
Yeah. No, well, we're on Easter break too, so it's day one of our 2-week holidays. So send us some strength, guys, because we're going to need
it. Isn't that the truth?
Yeah. No, so obviously tonight, as I mentioned, we're going to talking about raising a family with neurodiversities. So we were saying pre-show, you've got 2 children with autism. So tell us more about that.
Yeah, so our son was diagnosed in 2010, and at the time he was only 16 months old, and he was reading at 1 and writing at 2, and not yet verbal until about the age of 4. And about 3, we realized he also had a photographic memory. So I knew that it was something I was going to be needing to find out all the information I could. So I heavily researched, about autism, about support resources. And there wasn't a lot back then, not as much as there is now, a decade later. But within that time frame of helping find him support and going to school and learning all of the supports we were going to need outside the school with his own developmental issues, came the idea that I realized my husband was also on the spectrum. And I brought the information to him and said, this really makes sense for me. And I had read a neuropsych evaluation of his when he was a child. And to me, it was like all the signs were there, but they just didn't have all the information then. So he had previously had an ADHD diagnosis. And so I said, this makes so much sense. And he said, oh my gosh, it resonates 100% with me too. And I really feel like now I can understand my nuances and things, a differentness from my friends and groups of family and things. So for us, it made a lot of sense. It also gave me an interesting perspective to see all of these accommodations that I had made for him that my child also was in need of. Sleep awareness and dietary awareness and things that he could kind of be given the same grace, if you will, that I was giving this grown man. And so when we kind of treaded down that path more, is when he found his voice. And that was magical. Although he wasn't able to maybe verbalize what he needed all the time, at least now there was voice coming out so we could go work on that. So, and then when my daughter was going into 3rd grade, I had kind of recognized that she might have dyslexia. And so, in the process of getting her tested for dyslexia, we also got an autism and ADHD diagnosis, which kind of surprised us, yet kind of when we looked back, we thought, how did we miss this? Like the sneaky little girl snuck, she was very social, or excuse me, and emotionally intelligent, very social as well. And just all of the typical signs that you wouldn't think of, you know, as a child with autism. But now that I've had the chance to kind of perceive a lens through looking at her and finding out what autism looks like in females, then I was able to really take the scope much broader and look at myself and go back to my childhood and realize all of my sensory issues and processing and thinking, oh my gosh, okay. And I kind of joked with my husband, like, where do I fit in? Like, everybody's on the spectrum but me. No. But I went and got testing done, and sure enough, came back that we all basically had a lot of the same diagnoses and overlaps in, you know, with ADHD, anxiety, and I was pretty much the only one with anxiety. Lucky them. But and I've overcome that through knowledge and education and kind of learning, being self perspective, you know. So
Yeah,
it's good.
yeah, yeah. We're pretty much the same. Both our children have got autism. So Lucas is 11 years old. He had his diagnosis round about the age of about 5. And then up until about 2 or 3 years ago, he only had autism. Now he's got ADHD and ODD, which is
Yeah.
opposition defiance disorder. It's basically, he's a medical diagnosed problem with authority. Very easily triggered, and something that when we're at home, he's challenging his dad a lot with it. He sees his dad as the authority figure in the house, so it's always Lucas v dad. And that's the main issue in the household at the moment. It's making sure they don't snap at each other. It's right, something's going to trigger here, separate now.
Yeah.
You go that way, calm things down. So
It's
I'm
so
playing
true.
referee between them at the moment.
You know, and it works so much like that in every family, and it goes back and forth, doesn't it, between each individual relationship and throughout the family. But right away, we recognized with our son that the idea that we had of parenting previously had to be wiped completely clean. And we had to reinvent the wheel of what parenting looked like for this child who had communication support needs and diet needs and safety needs and all of the things. And so it was very clear right away that we had to reassess how we were showing up as parents. It wasn't about what we expected of him or how we expected him to learn or behave. We realized that all of his behavior is communication. And that really also gave me a really great awareness and kind of a beauty to look at it without, and not saying that it doesn't get frustrating. Human beings like get frustrated, but I can, you know, be a little bit more patient than maybe I previously was without the information before. And it's made for a lot of success in our family.
Yeah. Well, obviously, with our daughter, we got our diagnosis a couple of years ago also, and I think it was a real shock to the system when it actually came through that yes, she's got autism. It wasn't a shock to the system. For me personally, it was okay. I wasn't expecting that. I mean, yeah, all right, she'd shown a few traits, but it was because she masked quite a lot. It was. It knocked me back a little bit, and it took me a little bit longer processing it with my daughter. You know, but then it was sort of right, okay, so now we've got 2 autistic kids, you know, and we sort of talked her through what autism was and the fact that it's not a bad thing. It just means that she's going to have some extra needs, which is fine, and she's just as special as her brother. Well, she's always been special anyway.
Yeah.
You know, but that just having the autism means that she's extra special, and to them, it's autism is their superpower.
Yeah.
So that's how we've explained it to them. So they're going to have a special ability because of the autism. And it's quickly fathomed out that Lucas is very good with numbers. He's super, super clever with numbers. He's doing college level and he's only just started high school.
Yeah.
So his teachers are like mind blown with the knowledge that's coming out of him at the moment.
Yeah, I love
Can't get
that.
anything past him. He's
DJ
definitely
is
got a
very
calculator in his
similar.
head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
what I
and
say.
Keegan's really good with English, so her imagination is so brilliant at the moment. She's starting to write her own books, and she's only 9 years old. So
Yeah.
watch out, world! Tegan's
Yes.
coming.
Isn't that the truth? And
Yeah,
that's exactly why we do what we're doing now, is really
yeah,
getting the idea that, the idea of autism from the past eras and generations, it's not the same idea in perception as it is today. And giving the idea that all of us are human and all of the behavior that we have is human behavior that is a form of communicating, whether we know how to process through that communication or not.
yeah,
And that's where we need to find the love and compassion to apply the support rather than any kind of judgment or expectations for our kids.
yeah, yeah. I mean, just because a person, individual, whichever word people prefer, has got autism, doesn't mean they're any less human than you or me. I mean, obviously, you were saying that you've got an autism diagnosis. My counsellor has said I might have it, and going to my autism groups with the kids, the other mums, they've all said I'm showing a lot of signs of it. So, like I was saying before, in a world where we can't self-identify, I self-identify as having autism. Doesn't
Yeah.
change the fact that I'm me.
Yeah, no.
You know?
And I think that's a beautiful thing too, is that we really identify with our individuality, because just like your son, my son has these, innate abilities to do education beyond his years. And my daughter has these other abilities that are, I joke that one's the mathlete, one's the athlete. And they both have these amazing skills and like superhumans.
Yeah,
And I my husband and I, when we were dating, he kind of had always teased me that I was above average, and that's why he would dated me, and that's why we were going to get married. And we always joked about that. And when I realized that he was on the spectrum, because I know just how artistic and brilliant and logistical and all of the things that go on in his brain, and it made me think, this is the evolution of the human brain. Like, this isn't something that, oh, caused by whatever. Like, this is how our brains and our community and the diversity between us all, this is how it grows. This is the growth of our humanity.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I've heard that around a few times. I mean, I don't mention it because I don't want to offend all the people that don't agree with it, might not probably
100%.
with it. But yeah, I mean, to be honest, I do think maybe autism is the next evolutionary jump in the human race.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to have autism in the future, and we're all going to be able to have these superhuman abilities.
Mhm.
That's going to advance the human species for the better.
Yeah, exactly. And
You know,
if we really start with the kids, we can really help to foster and nurture these kind and beautiful souls to start supporting and understanding their peers that might be different from them, so that they can start to also create communities that are accommodating and fair, and just look inclusive for all of the
yeah,
abilities.
yeah, because obviously you're not in the UK, are you?
No, we're in the USA, yeah, and our
Yeah,
numbers
so
just came out too. So I'm interested to hear what yours are.
yeah, I'm not 100% on the numbers in the UK. I'm not 100%, so I'm not gonna
I'll have to look.
go into it. I'm
Yeah,
not
no
because I'm not.
worries.
I can't be 100%.
Ours just came out
I
1
do
in
know the very high.
36.
I do know the very high numbers, but I do know in the UK, obviously, businesses are now being paid extra money and everything like that to take on individuals with neurodiversities,
Yeah.
including autism, ADHD, dyslexia,
Yeah.
dyspraxia, and all
Instead
them.
of
It's an
shunning
extensive
them
list.
to, institutionalize or whatever old ideas might have been. No,
Yeah,
there's human dignity and a need for everyone to be a part of society
Yeah.
and to have a value and worth. And I love that we're starting to find new ways to introduce those things to the workplace. It's so important.
Yeah, exactly. Because when you're talking about autism in the workplace, or any neurodiversity in the workplace, but I'm going to pick on autism because that's the bit I know better. I mean, a person with autism, they have like a unique way of thinking outside the box. So I mean, you have these little tasks, don't you, where you've got to think outside the box to solve the problem. And autistic individuals have that unique ability to do it all the time. So if there's a problem there, bring an autistic person in, because chances are they'll get the solution like that. You know, then you'll think, where have you been all our lives? You know, I mean, you look at individuals like Elon Musk. I
Yeah.
mean, he's the world's richest person at the moment. If correct me if I'm wrong, people in the comments. You know, but at the moment he is the world's richest person, and he has autism. I
Yeah.
mean, look at what he was able to do. He's able to put his unique talents into making money. I mean, the guy could literally go out and buy Twitter just on a whim.
Yeah.
You know, just because he wanted to. You know, I mean, I'd love to wake up and think, what can I buy today?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to interview him if he might be listening by any chance. No,
Oh no,
I've
I'd
sent
love
him
to
an
get him on
email
the
before.
Warriors.
I really
Oh, good.
have, and I said, he interviewed. He had an interview with Temple Grandin, and that's when I sent him a message and just was like, "Look, I'd love to talk to you about neurodiversity and Asperger's, and just how unique your way of thinking is and stuff." And I think it really gave me the confidence as a podcaster to not be afraid to reach out to people that I thought were outside of the boundaries that I could reach out to them. That was kind of
Yeah.
like the top, and if I could do
Yeah.
that, then I'm not afraid to reach out to anyone else. And it's opened up some amazing global doors for me, obviously. So it's
Yeah.
really growing.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I love about the Warriors, because it's opened up a window to individuals around the world such as yourself.
Yeah.
You know, and then there's a fantastic mental health group in Australia, the Campfire Project, who are absolutely amazing with individuals with mental health, and we've touched base with them as well. They're doing a brilliant job over there.
Yeah.
You know, and there's obviously, that's just one that I know of off the top of my head, but I know there's going to be hundreds, if not thousands, of mental health projects around the world that are doing just as amazing jobs. So don't think I'm not picking on any of them, because I think anything around mental health, and bringing it to mental health. Obviously, raising a family with neurodiversities, any neurodiversity, not just autism, affects your mental health. I mean, when Tegan got her diagnosis, it knocked me back, and it took me a few days. And the anxiety that's brought on, it is there, because it's then, how do I deal with two kids with autism? They're both unique. They both got their own separate care needs. Thankfully, none of them are really fussy with foods. They are good eaters when they want to be. We just do go through a lot of tomato ketchup in this house because of Tegan. So how's it affected you and your mental health, having children with autism?
I would say at the very beginning, it was definitely something I had to adjust to. And, I become I started writing children's books, and I think that really gave me like an outlet to kind of dig through my feelings and kind of the perspective that I needed to have in order for my community to support my children the way I wanted them to. And it also was able for me to really kind of assess um, how I approached helping others when it came to getting that diagnosis at first. And it was so interesting. I had, for a long time, talked about kind of the process as being, I don't even like to say the word anymore. I've X'd it out of my vocabulary, but a grieving process. And I don't say that now, because I had interviewed someone who shared with me the pain that they personally felt hearing their parents say that they grieved over them in their autistic diagnosis in their childhood. Wow, what a learning and growing process, right? And just to be like smack in the face on my own podcast and just say, oh my gosh, I need to take a step back and realize the words I use are also so effective in so many ways. And so I really kind of decided when I helped other families, I would definitely use the word overwhelm, because I think that's a safe word that doesn't offend anyone. But I got rid of that other one. And I just and you don't know until you do. Isn't that the truth? Like, it's such a learning process. And
Yeah.
just like you, I've heard you say several times, I never want to like offend anyone or not be using the right terminology or language. So I'm always here to learn more and to get more information from my community and my peers that may have a better education on a subject that they could teach me. So
Yeah.
I welcome it all the time.
Yeah, same with me. I mean, with the world at the moment being as mad as it is, people self-identifying as whatever they want.
Yeah.
You've got to be, obviously there's now where you've got to do a political correctness, and you're always worried. Am I saying the right pronoun? Am I saying the right word? Am I going to be offending this person? It's like, I really don't want to be offended. And it's something that you constantly worry about, and that even triggers your mental health.
Yeah.
Because you're constantly like, yeah, I mean, that person looks like a girl, but she might identify as a he, and we're not even going to go down that road, because I'm not fully educated on it. It's each to their own.
And I agree, and that's why I love to kind of explore those guests that can teach me more about the subjects and the conditions or effects that happen all around the world that we don't see in the everyday news and the everyday headlines, and giving them a spotlight and a place to be at the front, of attention, and really get the awareness that they deserve. It's so special to share those moments with people.
Yeah. Obviously, I can say I self-identify as having autism. I know it's not a proper diagnosis, and I don't know whether I want to go for a proper diagnosis or not, because I don't actually know if it'll do me any good. But then, obviously, for those who don't know, I am currently expecting. We know. There's a very high possibility that this baby's going to have autism as well. So there's going to be a third autistic child in the house. There's a very real possibility of that. So me getting the diagnosis might help him. I don't know. So I'm in two minds about going through with it. And obviously it is affecting my mental health a little bit, because I am, do I, don't I? And this is anxiety about going through the process, because it's all those professionals going to the professionals again, and everything like that. Going through the process as a mother with your child, even that's not a pleasant process.
It's hard.
What was it like with you when you were going through that process towards getting the diagnosis for your kids? I know it wasn't very nice with us.
Yeah. When our son was a baby, he was our first. I had a stepdaughter that I'd raised. So when we had our first son, and he was quiet and perfect and all of these things, and then his his pediatrician said, that's great that he's reading, but he should be making these sounds and making eye contact and pointing, and I think you need to have him tested for autism. I was pretty shocked. Like, did you not hear me say that he's like reading already? What's going on here, And so we took him just to our health department. And they gave us the diagnosis that they had for an early diagnosis is called PDD-NOS. And that was his first diagnosis until he was about 5 in the school system, and then it was autism for his school services. Yeah, so that was a process that we kind of, I guess that was the most shocking one. And we were shocked when we got our daughters, but we also had expected a little bit, and we knew that she was dyslexic, so we weren't surprised by that. We were glad she was finally going to get the help she deserved and needed so badly. And then with, like kind of like with you, with my husband and I, we don't need anything. It was just kind of our own validation of how we could serve our children better. Um, and I just want to address this question,
Yeah, I'm going
on
to come on to that
here.
because I think you're talking about the school systems and everything like that and how we're helping the kids and everything like that. And I think this question just jumps in right there. So as mums who have autistic children, how do you feel about the education awareness services and the programmes in your areas? So in the UK, there's not a lot, there's not, well, there's not enough awareness of autism in the schools, particularly in the mainstream schools. So
Yes.
obviously Lucas and Tegan, they did go to mainstream schools and they struggled in mainstream schools. So Lucas went through 3 primary schools before he was home educated for 12 months, and then he moved into his autism high school. So it is an SEN all boys autism high school currently, but as of September it's going to be male and female autism high school, and that's when Tegan will join too. So because of Lucas's abilities, he was able to skip the last year of primary school, which would have been year 6, and to go straight into high school, because technically he shouldn't be in high school till September, but he's made that jump already. And he's been able to mingle with kids that are a little bit older, just his age and a little bit older, and then a lot older, and he's been able to learn a lot more things, and his attitude's come on also, but that's separate. But I think there's got to be more awareness of autism and more training of autism in the mainstream education. I mean, Tegan's currently going through the same thing as Lucas, where we've had to bring her out of mainstream education because of the masking. And we have actually had a question about masking, which I'll come to.
Okay.
Yeah. So obviously we brought her out of there, and the mask has completely gone now. So we don't see any of the masking anymore now that she's home educated. And we know from now, when she's going to be moving into her autism school, she knows that her brother's already there. All the staff are fully trained about autism. All the other kids there have autism too. So she's going to feel more relaxed, more at ease, and the mask isn't going to come back. Well, that's the hope anyway. So how's the education system for you in America?
I would say lacking a lot of awareness as well. There's, I would say, more of a problem with bullying than there is with autism awareness. And the same as you, actually, when we were in first grade, which is early primary school, our district told us, we don't have a place for your son. You'll have to homeschool him. So he came home and finished high school at 12, and we haven't moved on to a college education yet. So I'm still discovering that. He's 13 now, so it's just, kind of a discovery process. And then our daughter was in general education school, and then moved also to homeschool because of COVID. And then, but that's when we were able to get her the diagnosis and the support she needed, and start getting the the reading tutoring going on, so that she could get help there. And so that was kind of nice that we had that available. But she did end up going back to a charter school this year, which I would say doesn't have a lot of experience with autism, in that they still need help in that same setting of just kids treating kids good, which, I think is a worldwide problem maybe. So that's too bad. But I see the need for better diagnostic processes here in the States. I see the need for definitely I know there are a lot of autism schools, as there were none when we needed them back in, 10 years ago. So that's nice, and maybe in the future our son will be able to participate in some sort of program, that we find for him. So that's our hope, isn't it, as parents, that we put them in the
Yeah.
right direction and help give them all the support we can.
Yeah, I mean, particularly obviously in the UK, we had to go through several fights that took us over that 12 months mark to actually get him into an autism school, because the council around us were basically saying he doesn't need to go to an autism school. He'll be fine in a mainstream school. He's got the EHCP, which is Education Healthcare Plan, which is obviously for school.
Yeah. I
And
think which would be an IEP here in the States.
Yeah, no, well, these education's healthcare plans and everything like that, they open up more support and everything like that in school for them. And we've tried 3 primary schools, it's not working. These schools can't accommodate his needs. He needs flexible teaching that mainstream education just cannot give him.
Yeah.
So we had to literally fight for him. And now that obviously he's in his school, things have settled down with him, then the fight shifted to our daughter.
Right.
Yeah, and we had to bring her out of school, and we had to challenge the local authority, because they actually said she doesn't need an EHCP, she's absolutely fine, there's nothing wrong with her. And it's like, okay.
Let me list the ways. Documentation,
Yeah.
people. That's the best thing to have on hand.
Yeah. No, well, we had to get independent professionals in, and these independent professionals were absolutely brilliant, and they've done 3 brilliant reports.
Yeah.
And we took them back and said, look, these are the reports, either grant it now or we're going to end up going to court with it. And they've granted it. So luckily we don't have to go to court.
Yeah, definitely.
So now we're just in the final things of process of finalising your EHCP ready for September. So
and I don't know how much early intervention programs you have there, but definitely anyone that's listening that has somebody with a brand new diagnosis, that the earlier the better to get any kind of early intervention programs. And there's such amazing programs these days. I know that ABA is a scary, controversial word that people don't like to hear, but I would like to say that just as things have changed over time, like automobiles, the word is still the same, but yet they have changed in so many ways. And so we have to kind of give understanding and knowledge to that, and make sure that we're really educating ourselves about what kind of therapies we're getting our kids into. Play therapy is really new, but very, very, one was positive, has really good results. So I went mind blank there. So that's something to definitely look into if you have any kind of resources like that in your area.
Yeah, one of the things that they do with Lucas in school is Lego therapy. So Lucas isn't very good with letting others take turns. So it's very much me with him. So Lego therapy teaches him that, yes, it's okay to have your turn, but then it's somebody else's turn, then somebody else's turn, then maybe somebody else's turn, then it comes back to your turn. So it's very good at teaching him that. So, how to play together with other kids. Well, he's a teenager, so how to socialise properly in a group, sort of thing. You've got to change the vocabulary as they get older.
Isn't that the truth?
and that brings us with the attitude as well, because it's he started swearing a lot more since he's gone into high school. It's I don't like the swearing. I can tolerate it a little bit, and we did tolerate it a little bit, but then it's increasingly got worse, and it's right, okay, now we're going to step in and curb the swearing.
Yeah.
Because he swears like a trooper.
Swear jar works wonders, right? Not in that one. We used to make our friends do it when we had a younger one, and our friends would come over and we would make them pay in the swear jar. That was funny.
No, in this house the swear jar doesn't work. It got thrown. So
well, that could happen too.
Oh yeah, no. Well, the way we've done it was Lucas has a special interest of Rubik's Cubes, and he's got a big collection of Rubik's Cubes. So we've told him if he swears now, I'm going to remove a Rubik's Cube. And the threat of that alone is curbed the swearing. So I'm hoping that, I mean, I might have to, in the next over the next 2 weeks, over the Easter holidays, we might have to remove a few Rubik's Cubes so that he learns not to swear or to manage the swearing.
Manage it. Exactly, right?
Manage it properly. Yes, you're getting older. Yes, you're mixing with older kids and mixing with adults. You're getting away with certain things, but in society, we don't swear like troopers.
Yeah.
We don't. There's a time and a place for swearing.
Yeah, that's a tricky one.
Teaching him that.
That's great.
No, I mean, we're on the subject of education. Well, that's an education in itself, not to swear like truth. I mean, nobody would watch the Warriors if we were effing and blinding every single sentence.
Right?
I mean, they do slip out sometimes, but we're human.
Yeah, exactly.
It's going to happen sometimes.
Yeah.
But there's a time and a place for it, and teaching kids that, again, that's an education thing. So I'm going to come to Adam's question. So what's the difference between men and women on the spectrum when it comes to masking? So I'm going to let you go first with that one.
Wait, I will tell you, my husband has the ability to not mask. That's the difference, is that he is literal and direct, and it can sometimes come out to be very rude, probably some people might think, as we've been together for almost 20 years. I know when it's 19 years this year. So I see where in the beginning it drew me to him because he was like, didn't take anything, and me is like this soft, sweet, like I take way too much. And so it was just beautiful to me how he could just be so blatant all the time, and that's okay. Like, it didn't ever seem to bother me. So but then when it came to myself, like I said, very I would say oversharing. Like, I tend to overshare much more than my husband. He is very quiet and reserved, but is very blunt, and I'm very cheery and oversharing with people, which makes some people uncomfortable. And every individual is different. So I can't say that there's an actual like men or women, or, it's so important to remember everybody is so individually different, because I'll tell you the truth. My daughter is so much more like her father than she is like me. She is beautiful, and people all through her childhood, oh, you're so pretty, you're so, and where I would be taught to be, thank you, oh, thanks so much, she was like, yeah, I know. Like, duh, and I would be like, oh my gosh, like, how could she? But she's just so raw and honest and blatant, just blunt, just like him. And there's a different kind of strength that comes from having that type of honesty about yourself. Whereas I mostly mask, like, I've been twiddling my thumbs the whole time, and like, I don't have a fidget toy underneath my desk or anything. I can't stand wearing pants. I hate the way it makes my legs feel. I own like 500 sundresses, and those are some things that I really had to like examine when I realized that those were sensitivities that I had, that I just, made accommodations for myself throughout my whole life. With my husband, we haven't eaten in a restaurant in 20 years. We don't go to restaurants. We don't. And that was before we had kids. That's before we had any autism diagnoses, because I knew he never liked it, and it grossed him out and it made him uncomfortable. Now I know why. Now it has a name, right? But for the longest time, I just said, it's not that important to me anyways. I'd rather have this amazing, honest, love, like, lasting relationship with this person than be worried about eating at this new steak restaurant or something. So you pick your battles, right? So I think that really comes down to individuality and kind of just meeting everyone where they're at.
Yeah, I mean, just even you talk about that, it's like that's even more. It's, you know, I can relate so much to that because not wanting to go out to restaurants every night, it's not something I feel comfortable with. I mean, I've been to restaurants with Adam and we've had meals together, but it's not something that I'm comfortable doing. I don't like the idea of people watching me eat. It sets my anxiety off, and it's, you know, if I swap something on my t-shirt, I'm going to be judged for that. Well, that at least that's what I tell myself. I'd prefer it just ordering a takeaway at home, because then if I slop down my top, I don't care because I'm in my own house. You know, I've only got my partner and my kids, and they're going to laugh at me, but I don't care if they laugh at me because they're my family. I care about other people laughing at me and judging me when I'm out and about. That's when it sets my anxiety off. And it's always, we need to go out more, but I don't like going out. It's too peoply out there.
It is, right?
I know. And I said that to him. I'm like, there's too many people out there. I'm staying in today.
And maybe find quiet days. Maybe go during days that it's, you know, really quiet out there, so that you know that. Plan for that.
Yeah. I mean, obviously there's the ways and means around it, but it's we can't do much anyway now because obviously we've got the kids.
Yeah, you got a new one, another one on the way.
Yeah, exactly. You know,
you got enough planning to do.
I mean, we went to Chester Zoo on Saturday, and my anxiety wasn't there. We was having a brilliant day out, and we went into the food court in there, and we was able. Adam got burger and chips 4 times, £50 for burger and chips and a drink 4 times, £50. I'm like, what?
Insane. Oh, I'm our like, world. Yeah, that'll give you the anxiety for the day.
Oh no, I mean, it cost us £50 to get into the zoo.
And I mean, then
I mean, luckily, because we got the disability benefits, me and Adam got in for free, so we did only have to pay for the kids. And then they wanted a donation towards the zoo on top of it, and it was like, all right, okay then. You know, can't exactly say no to a donation when you're looking at it like that. You know, so yeah, it cost us £50 to get into the zoo. It cost us £50 for dinner, and it was like, okay then. You know, bear in mind before we went to the zoo, we'd obviously already done a food shop, so money was obviously had already come down anyway.
Exactly.
So yeah.
Oh man.
But it was really a really amazing day. It really was amazing.
That's great.
So, I mean, I would recommend Chester Zoo. It's autism friendly, it's family friendly, and there's 20,000 animals. We heard one zookeeper tell us. So
it's amazing.
You know,
I love a good zoo. I agree with you there.
Yeah,
and our kids do too.
Yeah, I mean, going out as a family and eating in a restaurant as a family doesn't bother me. If it's just me and Adam, that bothers me.
Yeah.
I think
we've never been able to go out as a family. Our son isn't at that stage where he'd been able to sit or even be around. Like I'll tell you kind of a funny, bless his heart story that I was making pasta one night and he came in the kitchen and like one of the noodles fell onto the floor and he looked at it and just gagged and ran out of the room. And I was like, it's just a cooked noodle, buddy. It's totally fine. And you know, I think that it's funny, but poor thing, it literally makes him convulse. Like it makes his body completely change. And that's just something that I don't want him to have trauma or things like that. You know, I want him to know that his family and his home here is safe and that we'll do everything we can. So we worked on talking about dry pasta after that. And then we'll work to getting, you know, talking about why it grossed him out. But, you know, as other people might be like, you know, eat it or force and things like that, we realized very early on that was going to be just traumatic for the whole family.
Yeah, I mean, how do you deal with food related issues with the kids?
We kind of have a lifestyle that is going to look different from very typical families, and that we don't have dinner times or bedtimes. I mean, I go to bed at the same time and wake up at the same time every day, but everybody in our family kind of sleeps on their own schedule. Our daughter goes to school, she goes to bed at night and wakes up in the morning. But our son, who doesn't even do homeschool anymore, um, we realized that he wasn't going to be on that same sleep schedule. He tends to follow a schedule that I like to refer to as the moon schedule, which is 2 weeks in the night and 2 weeks in the day. And I've gotten used to that because there was years and years of therapists and me having to, fight and medicate and try to force the sleep habit that wasn't natural to him. And I finally was like, I'm going to let my child biologically show me what he needs on his schedule, and we'll follow that. And there's no fighting. It's fantastic. And he's healthy. Now, eating, on the other hand, he has a lot of texture sensitivities. So he won't eat anything out of his preferred items, as the rest of the family will eat everything. So we have a much, much more diverse palate than our son does. But we've kind of, not that we don't want to introduce foods, we do as much as we can. But we've also come, this is going to sound kind of funny, but I gave this advice to a mom once that was just so upset because, she thought her child had to be at this place in their life and their age and their, process of growing. And I said, no, just listen. They have their whole life to sit on the toilet. They have their whole life to eat a peanut butter sandwich. Like, we don't have to force them to do it by age 3, by age 7, by age 13. They have their whole life to try these things. And as human beings, we need to give each other a little bit of understanding and grace, even as parents, that if we want to make this experience good for our children, we need to show them how to do that for themselves rather than try to be in control of it for them.
Yeah. I mean, luckily we don't have that. I mean, Tegan, just as long as it's got tomato ketchup on it,
Good to go. I love
so
that.
pasta bolognese.
Yeah.
She'll, even though it's got tomato in the sauce anyway, extra tomato sauce on it.
Yeah.
So, and she's also gone to salt at the moment. So we have the pink Himalayan salt.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. Adam's introduced that, and the kids have gone mad for it. So she'll now put salt and tomato ketchup on everything. So we had chicken wraps a few days ago, and it was just a little bit of chicken with loads of red sauce. And it went everywhere. At least she's eating.
And at least you're home, right? You're not at that restaurant.
Yep. At least she's eating. But
yeah,
it was more of
definitely.
along the lines of a tomato ketchup wrap.
With chicken on the side. Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
I mean, the only thing she doesn't have it on is cereal. I'm waiting for that.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, whereas Lucas, he'll just eat anything you put in front of him.
Oh, that's good.
Oh, he's one of these that it doesn't matter what it is, he'll try anything. And if he doesn't like it, he'll let you know about it. But he's so open, he's such a good eater.
Yeah, that's nice.
And Tegan's obviously, I mean, that's one of the things I'm worried about, and that's why I'm trying to learn a bit more about foods and everything like that.
Yeah.
Because obviously I don't know what baby's going to be like when he does start venturing into food. I mean, he's not even here yet, but I'm already thinking like
you should. That's okay.
Is he going to be like Lucas?
Yeah.
Is he going to be like his sister and to want tomato ketchup? I mean, Lucas went through a phase of mixing tomato ketchup and mayonnaise together.
Yeah.
And making pink sauce, as he called it.
We call it fry sauce here in Utah, in the US.
Yeah, no, well, he called it pink sauce. He went through a phase of that, and Tegan didn't like that because she was using he was using her tomato sauce.
Yeah. No more experimenting for you, brother. Oh,
yeah. So yeah. yeah. But right. So I mean, you've been absolutely amazing tonight. We're getting towards the end of the show now. So final thing, what advice would you give to somebody who has just come into an autism diagnosis with their child?
Yeah, I would say find 3 things for yourself. Find yourself a good book or podcast to listen to get some information. Find a community in your community or online. And if you don't have one, reach out to the Autism Advocate Support Group on Facebook. That's where you'll find me and my beautiful community. And find yourself a 3-tiered friend process. Someone at the end of their journey to help you look forward, someone in the middle where you're at, possibly, and then when you're well enough to be able to do so, someone at the beginning of their own journey so that you can be a mentor to them, because it really helps you grow throughout the process.
Yeah, you know what? I think that's brilliant advice. And you know
you.
what? In the UK, reach it's pretty much similar advice. Reach out to autism in the autism groups on Facebook or any social media platform. There's plenty of autism parents out there to speak to who are at various different parts of the journey. I mean, we're coming to the end of our journey.
Yeah.
Thankfully, we're coming to the end with Lucas and Tigger, but we'll be starting it again with our third child in the near future. So, just reach out and speak to them and do as much research as you can.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah, but you've been amazing. Please
Thank
don't be a
you.
stranger. Come back on. I am open to finding more autistic parents because obviously April is Autism Awareness Month. I want to do some more autism podcasts this month. I haven't got anything else booked for the rest of the month, so I am free. So please feel free, come and message me.
Book her up.
Yeah, book me up. Otherwise, I'm spending the month doing nothing.
Absolutely. And come visit the SG Child show too to learn more about.
Where can people find you, Sarah?
Yeah, sgchilds.org.
Yeah. And obviously, you're on Facebook. Is there any other platforms you're on?
Everything. Facebook, TikTok, YouTube. I don't do Twitter very often. Instagram. Everywhere you can either find me at the SG Child Show or just SG Childs, which is the podcast name. And I have 7 children's books about special needs. And my author name is SG Childs. That's what it all came from. So,
and are your books on Amazon?
They are. Books are on Amazon.
There you go, everybody. Go and check her out. Yeah. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, Sarah, for joining me. See you later.